Julian Assange is a journalist. He's a publisher. Everything he ever printed was the truth. The U.S. was, all the windows are sealed off and the doors are double paned. And the British courts have ruled that Julian Assange can appeal his extradition to the United States. Stella Assange, his wife, is calling this a big win. It means that Assange will not be extradited anytime soon as this appeal process works through. To read from the article, London's High Court has ruled that Julian Assange has the right to appeal in his final challenge against extradition to the United States. Assange's legal team argued in Monday's hearing that the judges should not accept the assurances given by U.S. prosecutors that he would be treated great and that they would bring him a cup of hot cocoa every day. UK court was basically asked to rule on whether those assurances were good enough and that Assange would be treated better than U.S. prisons treat people. And they've now decided that he can appeal that. His team made the case that if extradited, Assange could be discriminated against on the basis of his nationality as an Australian-born foreign national. Oh, or the fact that the U.S. government once plotted to kill and or kidnap Assange. You mean that he would be shipped to the country that had plotted to kill him? Could that create a bias? Would that be the biased country? In a short ruling, the judges said the U.S. submissions were not sufficient, granting Assange permission to a full appeal in relation to the legal points on freedom of speech and nationality. A date has not yet been set for the next hearing. I want to see an article I just read. What they're not getting into, which of course they would never get into, is that they mention Assange is Australian born, but Assange has nothing to do with the United States. Nothing. Never operated from the United States. WikiLeaks was never based in the United States. WikiLeaks never had an office in the United States. Assange never operated from the United States, was never a citizen of the United States. I don't know that he even employed anyone from the United States. Assange had nothing to do with the goddamn United States. So for the U.S. to say he violated one of our laws, so therefore you have to ship him to us, a country he has nothing to do with, and let us torture him for the rest of his life. That would be saying that the U.S. can grab up anyone around the world for any law, U.S. law, that the U.S. decides they violated, which is insane. It basically is saying that the U.S. empire's laws go for everybody, which of course is the opposite of sovereignty for every other country. Can you imagine being one of those other countries, even ones that are allied with the United States, France, Germany, Canada, Australia, any of these countries that are allied with the United States and saying, yeah, the U.S. can steal our citizens and torture them whenever they want. That's fine now. That's just fine. Our journalists, our medics, our political leaders, whatever. It destroys sovereignty for all of the countries, and yet the UK, I mean, for the most part, doesn't seem to have, most people around the world don't seem to have a problem with that. Or they're just so dumb that they haven't even looked into what this means. It's unfucking believable. Okay, so that's something that CNN would never say. Of course, the fact that Julian Assange is a journalist, he's a publisher. This would harm any other publisher ever to publish things. Also, Julian Assange never got anything wrong. Everything he ever printed was the truth. Everything he ever printed. Let me repeat that. Everything he ever printed was the truth. CNN can't go 8 seconds without getting something wrong, getting something that they need to retract, getting something that they, try to ignore later. Here's the other cynical take on what's just happened with this extradition. And I don't have any proof of this, but what I did bring you, I brought you a few weeks ago that the U.S. was, and this was confirmed by multiple outlets like Consortium News, confirmed by many others, that Julian Assange's team, his legal team, the U.S. was reaching out to them and basically looking for a plea deal where Assange would have to plead guilty to something without coming to the United States, and then he would be freed. I don't know where that stands now, but it clearly was happening. That doesn't mean it was going to happen. It could have been something the U.S. wanted to float out there because they thought it would help their case in something else. Maybe because Biden thought it would help his voting numbers to make it look like he was going to let Assange out. I don't know. Clearly, we don't know where that stands. The thing about what just happened here with the appeal allowed, and now Assange is just stuck in Belmarsh prison for years more, maybe. I don't know how long it could take. It benefits the Biden reelection efforts to not be extraditing Assange to the United States right now. Biden doesn't want the look of that. Yes, he wants to. If Biden and by extension the U.S. empire had the ability, they would just murder Assange without it looking. Had the ability to do it without it looking like them. They want to kill him. They want to torture him forever. That being said, Biden is worried of the look. He's worried about the look during an election year. Extraditing a journalist to the United States to be tortured. And let's remember that you get nothing different from Trump. So anybody who thinks, anyone who cares about Assange and thinks, well, then let's get Trump in office. Trump was exactly the same. Trump was the first president to bring the charges against Assange. Trump was the one to kidnap him out of the Ecuadorian embassy. All that was under Trump. So let's not pretend that there's any difference on this topic, just like almost every other topic between those two goddamn brain damaged goons. I'm just saying that it's quite possible the U.S. behind closed doors asked the UK courts, because these things are corrupt. These legal systems are corrupt, and who knows what kind of backroom deals are made. Asked the UK courts to basically just keep Assange in this endless cycle for as long as possible, because they want to continue to torture him. He's in solitary confinement, something like 23 hours a day. It is a form of torture, and they want to continue to torture him. And this way they actually don't have to extradite him. I do understand that from the angle of his wife, his legal team, etc., this is still a win, because the worst case scenario is him extradited for them. Maybe not, maybe for Biden, it looked bad during a re-election, but for them, worst case scenario is him extradited to the United States, where he would not get a fair trial at all. If you've ever looked at what happens to whistleblowers, the trials they get, and you can go down the list, Chelsea Manning, John Kiriakou, Daniel Hale, Jeffrey Sterling. If you look at the type of trials they get, it is no trial at all. They're not allowed basically any witnesses. They're not allowed any evidence. It's all done classified. All the windows are sealed off and the doors are double paned, and they double bag the trial, and no one hears anything, and they're just railroaded into the worst case scenario. So it's not he would not get a real trial, anything resembling a real trial.